Thanks for coming, everybody. Welcome to the 2018 Baton Rouge Blues Festival, backstage at the Blues Fest, where we interview artists that are playing here at the festival so we can get to know them a little better. And very pleased to have Miss Erica Falls here with us.
Hello, everyone.
And Erica, I was wondering if you would be so kind as to just give us a little taste of what you're about.
All right.
I've been here and we'll talk about it.
All right, let's do a little something like this. Oh, said I love you, boy. Oh, what you do for me. Oh, said I love you, boy. And yes, you're the one for me. I will go to the moon for you and circle around the stars, glide on by the Milky Way, and bring my love back from Mars. Oh, I love you, boy, and I know that you love me. Together we will be together for eternity.
Thank you, thank you. I felt like you were singing that right to me. I saw you do a little shot of honey before you did that. And
Yes.
I felt it coming right at me. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Miss Falls. Now, you come from New Orleans, right?
Born and raised in New Orleans.
Born and raised where in New Orleans?
I grew up in the 9th Ward.
Oh, right on.
Yes,
right on.
9th Ward girl here.
Okay. And now, when I first became aware of you and when I first heard your name is when you were performing with Galactic. So was that like your kind of breakout gig with Galactic, or when did you start singing?
I've been singing all my life. I come from a family of singers. My mother sings, plays piano, all of my brothers and sisters. And before touring with Galactic, I've worked with people like Joe Sample and Alan Toussaint, Dr. John. And so Galactic helped me put me on a platform consistently.
Right.
You know, touring with them and going all over the country. And it's been an amazing ride with those guys. It's been 3 years now that I've been with them.
And you're still performing with them.
Still with them.
Oh,
yes,
right
I
on.
am.
Now, you've performed, like you said, with Joe Sample, with Sting,
Yes.
with Dr. John Fogerty, people like that. How do you get this gig? Tell us about what that is. Was this studio performances or live or?
Some of them were studio performances and some of them were live shows. And how I came across those gigs, my phone rang.
Yeah.
I was just fortunate enough to, have my phone ring and they say, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this?" And
So
I'm
were they aware of you through Galactic and you're just?
No, this is actually when I did those things with Joe Sample and John Fogerty. This was before Galactic.
So you got a good agent, is what I'm saying.
God is blessing me. That's all I can
Yeah.
say. Because,
Well,
it's
that's a
just
good
word
agent.
of mouth. And they ask and they say, "Well, hey, I know Erica Falls." And then my phone rings. So it worked out like that in my favor.
Well, that is
Yeah.
fabulous.
It is.
That is fabulous. That is a good gig. Now, you went from being like kind of the featured singer with another band, and when you were on tour with Galactic a few years ago, you wrote your first EP, Soul Expression.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What led to that? Because a lot of people who are, performing singers with that, they aren't necessarily songwriters. And so what led you to want to write your own material, and where did that come from?
Well, in 2001, my father passed. And I've always been in a group, doing a lot of cover songs. But when I lost him, I made the decision to step out on faith and kind of do my own thing. And that's when the songs started coming to me. When I made that decision, that's when I started to write. And that's when I released Soul expressions, and that's how that came about. Just stories that I had in my head or things that I related to, and I wrote it down and got with my bass player, Donald Ramsey, who's also my producer, and we worked those songs out, and that's how that first EP came to be.
Well, those are beautiful songs on there.
Thank you.
And then those led to your recent record, which came out last year.
Yes.
Homegrown.
Yes.
And if you haven't heard Homegrown, you really should check it out. It's I found it was like kind of a refreshing. It reminded me of like a lot of the R&B, like Denise LaSalle and stuff like that. That was like the cool R&B that I would hear in blues clubs and juke joints and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Did you have much of a blues background? Were you steeped in the blues growing up, or?
Honestly, I was a kept kid.
Uh-huh.
My parents kept me close.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go to my first second line in New Orleans till about like 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But I grew up around a lot of music. Not a lot of blues, but gospel and jazz and R&B.
Right.
And that whole thing. But then when I got into the music world performing, then I was introduced to a lot of blues and, different types of music during that time in that genre. So, so my writing is sort of a gumbo mix of all of those things, all of those sounds together.
Sure. Now, who are some of the blues performers that you gravitated to? Who were some of those people?
Johnny Taylor. Love Johnny
Who's that?
Taylor. Johnny Taylor.
Oh, Johnny Taylor. Absolutely.
I love him. And, what's the guy that does the ground? the Bobby Blue Bland.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Denise LaSalle. And I love Betty Wright, and Millie Jackson.
Uh-huh.
I love all those, even though Millie's a little naughty. I love
She's
it.
not somebody you heard it being a kept girl listening to church music. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, could you belt out like one of your favorites? Do you have one of those that you could
Let's see.
throw out a little bit for us?
I love this line. Please don't stop that song from playing. Please don't stop that song from playing. All the love in me to fulfill the need in me. Keep on playing, baby. Johnny Taylor, I love that one.
Beautiful. Well, the thing I love about that music, and when I got into the blues, I was more into the old country blues, stuff like that. And then when I started hearing that stuff, then it makes you do this.
Yeah, make
like
you rock a little bit.
You gotta do this.
Yeah.
When you're doing that. And I think that's an important part of the blues that, a lot of people who maybe look at the blues as like a museum piece, it's not. It's a very living music, and it'll make you live and make you move.
And relate as well.
One of the songs on Homegrown that really kind of hit me, partially because I'm a record collector myself, is the song Old Records.
Yes.
Now tell us a little bit about what that song's about.
Well, that song was written by Alan Toussaint.
Oh, right on.
And it was sung by Irma Thomas. And how I learned about this song, Alan was doing this benefit every year for his foundation. And he would invite all these amazing artists to come and perform. And Irma Thomas was one of them. And they did that song. And in the rehearsal, I know I was grooving, my head was bobbing, and when I looked across the stage, all of the musicians just had like a unanimous just groove. Yeah. And so I told her, I said, hey, Irma, I'm going to do your song. She said, okay, baby, just when you do it, make sure you do it your way. And I said, yes, ma'am. And so I let her hear it, both of them, even Alan before he passed, and they gave me the thumbs up. Yes.
Oh, right on.
I did good.
Excellent, yeah. There's an R&B sound to yours that is timeless, I feel. Like, from like R&B in the 80s on up, that is very timeless kind of thing. Like the way the synth and the horn hits and that kind of stuff in there. Yeah. Like, for instance, the title track, Homegrown, reminds me of like a Stevie Wonder song or something like that.
Wow.
When you're writing these songs, are you thinking of these songs that you grew up hearing on the radio, or what? How how do you connect with this music of the past? How does this like?
Well, I'm a 70s baby, for one. And like I said, I grew up in the house just full of all different types of music. I'm the youngest of 8. So it was a lot of music going on, from my mother playing the piano and singing gospel, you know, to my dad playing Billy Eckstine and Sarah Vaughan, and my brothers playing the Sugar Hill Gang, and my sisters playing Roberta Flack. And it was so much going on in the house. And so that's sort of my connection. And then my own personal, this record is very personal in a lot of ways. So kind of telling my own story meshed with what I grew up listening to. And that's how I came up with my sound.
That's great.
And I brand it as Vintage Soul because it has sort of that old school feel, but more with a current sound.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, speaking as a 70s child, I'm a 70s kid myself, and that's an era of music I find is just endless to explore. One of the covers on this record that I was really struck by is you do Dreams by Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
And that's such a great song, and I was wondering if you would sing just a little bit of that for us.
Sure. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Ooh, players only love you when they're playing. Same women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you know, you will know.
That's good.
Thank you. I love that song.
That is
love
beautiful.
that song. Love Steve Nicks.
Everybody loves that song.
Yes.
Everybody loves that song. I play in a band, and at one point we learned that song, and that was the one that got everybody in the room, no matter who they were, their inner Stevie Nicks, like
yes, it comes out
out of that. And I think I love the expressive way that you take on that song. It's a song everybody knows. Everybody knows that song, but you bring yourself into that. I think is that really important? Is it important to put yourself?
It's very important because you don't want to mimic.
Exactly.
You want to be able to express.
And I think a lot of people do mimic. I think a lot of people find something they like, and they're like, I want to make it just like that.
Yeah.
And I find really refreshing about your take is that it's you in there.
Yes. It's very important for me to express myself. I try to keep what's familiar, you know, as far as the melody and harmonies, things of that nature, but it's always good to express yourself within a song, even though it can be Brick House from the Commodores. You know, everybody knows that song, and you can just kind of sing it like the record. Yeah. But that becomes kind of boring when you're singing it 1,000 times a year. So you have to find ways to make it fun for yourself and kind of express who you are within that. And so I love doing that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, one of the songs that really struck me is All Right. You know, it sounded like one of the Prince ballads or something like that, you know? It was like, was Prince like a big influence on you?
I was going to marry him. I was going to marry him and Michael Jackson, and we were all going to work it out. Yeah. So, yes. Yes, I loved Prince.
Right on. Who now? What singers now do you gravitate to that are like?
Well, I love Jill Scott. I love Anthony Hamilton.
Yeah.
I listen to, there's this guy named Donnie. It's not that popular, but man, I love his music.
Donnie?
Donnie.
Okay.
Yeah. Who else do I love to listen to? Anderson .Paak.
Oh, yes.
I like him. Of course, from New Orleans, Tank and the Bangers. I love her. She's a Ninth Ward girl as well.
Yep.
So I listen to all kinds of stuff, you know. I don't have one particular artist that I kind of key into. I listen to everything. Oh my gosh, there's a country singer, Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
Love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing. I love Kelly Clarkson. I love her new project. So I listen to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Well, I think there's so much brave expression on your record. And maybe the bravest song on there is the a cappella song,
Yes.
Without You.
Yes.
And, because when you hear R&B singers across the board, they are very carefully produced. And to have an a cappella song on an album like this, I think is really profound. I was wondered if you would sing that for us. If you would throw that out for us.
Lord, you are wonderful, marvelous, amazing. I can't do without you. Oh Lord, you are wonderful, marvelous, amazing. I can't do without you. Thank you.
All right. Well, Miss Erica, you are playing at 4:45 at the LA1 stage.
Yes.
Before we cut her loose, does anybody here have a question for her that you'd like to ask? Anything that you'd like to know that we didn't cover? All right. Well, y'all be sure, check out the merchandise booth. We have music from all of the artists playing down here. And be sure to pick up Miss Fall's album, Homegrown.
Yes.
And see her at 4:45 at the LA1 stage. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the Blues Fest. Thank you so very much for taking time to come talk with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, Miss Erica Falls, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.